All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachaha Kwadash. Double honors to head apostle Nettles, a great millstone who rule well and teach well. Peace and blessing to you, sincere Akim, that are pushing this truth all over the four corners of the earth, week in and week out, in our truth and sincerity. I want to touch on this breaking news. Plane crashes in Philadelphia with six on board. And I want to play a couple streams, which are still going live right now. And, this is breaking news just after the plane crash, so called plane crash with, a Black Hawk helicopter over there in the DC area, which, they're still searching that wreckage in the waters of that particular area in Washington, DC. And now we have a plane crash in northeastern Philadelphia. Okay. So let's go ahead and play some of these clips, and I'm going to stop it periodically to pull out some scriptures as well.
Who've been displaced. We are working with our city, state, and federal partners to assess any other needs that we can assist with. And we know from talking with Cheyenne Corinne that she also spoke to the Red Cross on the scene. They're trying to reach out to families in that neighborhood who need to leave, who need someplace to go. And she knew of at least one family who was actually displaced and looking to go to a safer location for the evening, because you can only imagine, as we're hearing now, that 6 homes, and it could be more, did catch fire, were impacted by the debris from this plane crash, as well as burned out cars. And you can only imagine the fear that must be so rampant.
I can't even imagine how it must have been to be there, to see it,
and not know
it,
and not know what happened. And what if you were inside? We've seen the ring camera video. We've seen people who witnessed it. But if you were in your home and had no idea,
or like these people, right at their doorstep,
right,
running in for cover,
right, and all of a sudden this. But what if you were inside and you didn't know, and all of a sudden your house catches on fire, and you're like,
what in the world was that?
Right.
The diner,
and not know, and not know what happened. And what if you were?
Yeah, we're gonna run that back, because as you've seen the footage from the ring camera of this, particular individual from his house, that don't look like no plane to me, and that's just my personal observation. It looks like a missile strike. And as you will see, the damage of this particular area that so-called was this plane direct hit, it looks like, it looks like a war zone. It looks like a missile strike to me, especially when you see the angle that the plane was coming. It was basically coming at a, vertical pace, a vertical angle. There was no horizontal um, projection of this plane like it was trying to land, or it was out of control and it was, trying to use the laws of gravity, wind speed, etc., to have a somewhat of a rough landing. This looks like a, a missile strike. At least it does to me.
Inside, we've seen the ring camera video. We've seen people who witnessed it. But if you were in your home and had no idea,
or like these people, right at their doorstep,
right,
running in for cover,
right, and all of a sudden this. But what if you were inside and you didn't know, and all of a sudden your house catches on fire, and you're like,
what in the world was that?
Right.
The diner that's nearby, the Four Seasons Diner, had some debris,
as well as burned out cars. And you can only imagine the fear that must be so rampant.
I can't even imagine how it must have been to be there, to see it,
and not know
it,
and not know what happened. And what if you were inside? We've seen the ring camera video. We've seen people who witnessed it. But if you were in your home and had no idea,
or like these people, right at their doorstep,
right,
running in for cover,
right, and all of a sudden this. But what if you were inside and you didn't know, and all of a sudden your house catches on fire, and you're like,
what in the world was that?
Right.
The diner that's nearby, the Four Seasons Diner, had some debris. Steve Keeley has been all over, has been running around this whole neighborhood trying to get some, just some reporting for us to tell us what's going on. There's a McDonald's there that had some debris, an oxygen tank from the plane, we believe, which had the same markings and same branding.
So as you see, these planes are falling out of the sky left and right. You know, if it was a plane, all right, because we know how this devil operates. He tells us one thing, or he tells the people one thing, but on the other hand, he's doing something else. And you know, there's definitely an agenda behind what we see with these plane crashes, man. Okay, because during the last couple months, we've seen, you know, multiple plane crashes in various different cities, various different areas around the earth, mass casualties. And, you know, here we have basically a back-to-back plane crash with casualties as well. And, you know, from what, you know, you saw the footage yourself, you know, you know, from what I see, it don't look like a plane to me. That whatever that was coming at a very high velocity of speed. And, you know, it was, you know, the way it looked and the angle it was coming at, you know, it's just highly unlikely for that to have been a plane. It could have been, but that looks like a projectile missile strike. Okay. And I'll run it back one more time.
No idea.
Or like these people, right at their doorstep,
Right.
running in for cover.
Right. And all of a sudden, this. But what if you were inside and you didn't know, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden your house catches on fire, and you're and like,
what in the world was that?
Right.
Yeah, you know, the diner that's.
Yeah, you know, why was this plane so bright on its approach before it actually wrecked? You know, I feel like what we're seeing here is the propulsion system from a missile projectile.
imagine the fear that must be so rampant.
I can't even imagine how it must have been to be there to see it
and
to
not
experience
know
it,
and not know
what
what
it is.
happened. And what if you were inside? We've seen the ring camera video. We've seen people who witnessed it. But if you were in your home and had no idea,
Or like these people, right at their doorstep,
Right.
running in for cover.
right, and all of a sudden this. But what if you were inside and you didn't know, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden your house catches on fire, and you're and like,
What in the world was that?
Right.
You know, the diner that's nearby, the Four Seasons Diner, had some.
This is 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 11. It says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And we're not putting anything past this devil. Okay. We know he has the means, he has the technology, he has the wherewithal, he has the voice to do these various different things, and he has the persuasion of the earth to get people to believe on a majority standpoint in, you know, his particular purpose and agenda. Okay. And we very well could see more and more of these planes start so-called falling out of the skies, if they are even planes. All right.
Debris. Steve Keeley has been all over, has been running around this whole neighborhood.
And just like, you know, the recent plane that came in contact with a Black Hawk helicopter and ultimately crashed into the river, or that body of water in Washington, D.C. You know, just prior to that, you had information coming out about, you know, the Blackhawks being able to be controlled remotely. All right, being able to be set up in a drone type format, and can be, you know, wired and rigged to be unmanned. You know, just to take that into account, because they're speaking about the you know, the people that lost their lives in the plane crash, but there's no type of information coming out about the soldiers that were in that black helicopter, right?
Trying to get some just some reporting for us to tell us what's going on. There's a McDonald's there that had some debris, an oxygen tank from the plane, we believe, which had the same markings and same branding as the plane that crashed. That's at a McDonald's. There was an AutoZone in this area that had some smoldering plane parts near it. A Dunkin' Donuts here across the street, a Raising Cane's, all these businesses that may have some serious damage. Here's an earlier look on the left of the fire that was taking place right after this video Steve Keeley took at about 6:40.
Let's go to another video. Let's see here. There we go.
To help people. They saw some things they didn't want to see.
Right.
That's for sure.
Our Carrie Corrado spoke with.
You see, so this is on location of this particular area. It says near Cottonman Avenue and Roosevelt Boulevard. This looks like a missile strike, man. You got debris, you got fire everywhere, a heavy explosion. You saw the mushroom cloud that came from, the explosion from whatever it was.
I believe it was Carrie who spoke with one of the witnesses who said that he saw a child in a car who had gotten hurt, and he flagged down a police officer in a nearby Dunkin' Donuts location to get that child some help. We do understand that there were people on the ground who were hurt. Temple University confirming that 6 people were treated at the hospital. 3 of them were released. 3 are in fair condition. So that much we know at this point, but still, as investigators are continuing to work the scene and assess the injuries and any possible fatalities, still very much in the early stages of recovering information there on the ground.
And again, you're looking at video that occurred about 3 hours ago when the flames were in full effect, but they have since been put out. And you saw some of the crews, the fire trucks, the engines behind our reporters that were slowly, looked like they were moving away. And now it's time for the NTSB, the FAA, and all the investigators to do their work as this tragic scene unfolds tonight in Northeast Philadelphia.
And to remind our viewers, right now the rain has let up a bit, but earlier on when we were speaking with some of our reporters, it was raining pretty heavily. So that also adding to the challenge for emergency responders on the scene as they were working to figure out and account for people on the ground who may have been hurt. As you're looking at this video from earlier tonight, you can see the fire affecting at least a few homes there, and then also that adjacent parking lot. Again, this is near the Roosevelt Mall, a densely populated area. It's a Friday night. People probably out with their families, returning home from work, sitting down to eat dinner. And to see this outside of your window, we saw that Ring camera video of that man and woman look up in the sky and say, "Oh my gosh, it's a plane," in disbelief, seeing that.
And that just looks odd. This plane particle just in the midst of a great explosion like that with no type of burn. Let me see if I can jump back on it. Look at this. This is odd. This plane, a piece of this plane. You saw the explosion, and you saw the magnitude of the explosion that took place, and here it is. You have this piece of this plane just lying there in the middle of the street with no type of burn marks. And it just looks odd. It doesn't fit the scene. Put it that way. Okay.
In disbelief, seeing that fireball in the sky there. Here it is. You see his mouth drop.
Yeah.
As he turns and he sees it. And you hear that explosion.
Oh, you see the
Yuki, you were saying you were hearing from someone who's
right?
in the neighborhood describing.
So from this explosion that you see the cloud, you see the fireball, and then they're going to give you this right here. Let's see if we can, because this video is still live. This is what came from the wreckage, right? This particle of this plane with the paint still all intact. Of course, you got the bent up metal, no burn marks, no nothing. And just, lying on in this particular parking lot. Just something fishy's going on here.
Outside of your window, we saw that Ring camera video of that man and woman look up in the sky and say, "Oh my gosh, it's a plane," in disbelief, seeing that fireball in the sky there. Here it is. You see his mouth drop.
Yeah.
As he turns and he sees it. And you hear that explosion. Yuki, you were saying you were hearing from someone who's in the neighborhood describing.
Their house, it was like an earthquake. Their house just shook. The glass,
and you got a lot of different footage coming out from phones, from Ring cameras, from various different sources. Because let's not forget, when Esau pushes through his various different, false flag attacks, he has his agents on the scene. Okay. He has people already set up to have their phones out. He already has people set up to be in certain particular vantage points. He has people on the scene to, add and take away from the crime scene. Okay.
windows. It just shook. And you can see from this couple right here, they were getting out, and then you can tell right there, he hears a noise, he turns, and then bang, that happens. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Oh.
Let's get a scripture real quick. This is Amos chapter 3, verse 6. Shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city, and the Lord hath not done it? Let's read it in the NLT. It says, when the ram's horn blows a warning, shouldn't the people be alarmed? Does disaster come to a city unless the Lord has planned it? And we fully understand that this is ultimately of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Okay. The scriptures say that the Most High killeth and maketh alive. And, there was definitely casualties from this particular situation that happened in Philly. And this is all of the Lord.
Then they immediately go back to where they were. But earlier, the mayor and the governor of Pennsylvania spoke about this incident. Let's play some of that right now.
I want to thank you all again for joining us. I want to give a quick recap of the information we shared earlier, and then we will give you some additional facts. An aircraft went down in the vicinity of Roosevelt Mall on Cottman Avenue, and it did occur shortly after 6 p.m. Again, we have no reports on the number of fatalities, so we are asking everyone for their thoughts and prayers for all who may have been impacted and affected by this tragedy. Several dwellings and vehicles were also impacted, and so we are urging people, particularly those families who live in the surrounding area, to please stay home if possible. If you see any debris, and those who are conducting the investigations have repeated consistently, please do not touch anything because it is still an active investigation. Just call 911, please, if you see anything. Investigators and all of our federal, state, and local partners are working as expeditiously as possible during this very difficult time. New information that we want to share with you, that shelter is now available at the Samuel Fells High School located at 5500 Langdon Street. Samuel Fells High School, 5500 Langdon Street. If anyone has been impacted and you need shelter and support, it is readily available for you. In terms of our federal and state partners, I want to say a special thank you to the NTSB. They are here on site now. The FAA, the Pennsylvania State Police,
So you hear what's going on, and I'm pretty sure, brothers do videos on this situation that's, basically the breaking news going on, and more information will come out about, what exactly has happened, and, the things circling around this so-called plane crash in Philadelphia. Let's go to Deuteronomy 32 and 39. It says, see now that even I am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. So like I was saying, though this very well could have been part of Esau's agenda and a false flag attack, ultimately it was of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Okay. And you hear, I'm not sure who this woman is with the hat on, basically saying they have shelters available for people that were impacted with, this so-called plane crash. Yeah, well, and she said it's for anybody. Well, you better have your paperwork with you if you go to these particular shelter areas. All right, for it to be for everybody. Well, according to Donald Trump, ain't nothing just for everybody anymore. All right.
Pennsylvania DEP, of course, our police and fire departments and OEM back and give another briefing.
They said they could even hear a loud bang. So, of course, a lot of terrified people in this area after watching that and hearing that. So their stories were pretty remarkable to hear.
Kerry, we were just talking to Arthur Walk, an aviation expert and a pilot who has a plane out there, and he was talking about the jet fuel aspect. And we were talking about how that jet fuel could probably, no doubt, spread across the area, and maybe that part of the story could affect some of the neighbors there in that area, some of the communities. Can you smell any of the jet fuel, anything that smells like gas, or is it just the burning, the explosion that is still in the air?
Yuki, we get little waves of smelling gas or jet fuel, as you said, but overall, we can just smell a faint smell of smoke in the air as we can continue to see that smoke billow into the air behind me.
Okay, I want you to go do your thing and get some reaction from people. Find out if you can about any injuries, how people are doing tonight in the community, and if any information about the people on board that plane that went down.
And this very well could, be a plane that was unmanned. This very well could be a plane that was, rigged with explosives, that was set up in a drone type format, remotely controlled, and set to crash and then detonate upon impact. All right, because that plane was coming at a very high rate of speed. It's almost like it was accelerating into the ground.
We're looking at the video right now that went down at 06:07 tonight. If you can get that information, we will get back to you shortly this evening. Kerry Corrado live on the scene in Northeast Philadelphia. Thank you, Kerry. We have another piece of information from the new United States Transportation Secretary. Sean Duffy just posted on X, and I'll just read it to you. He says, quote, "I am monitoring the crash in Philadelphia and heading to the FAA to gather more."
And this is these plane crashes are happening, circling around the recent statement that Trump has made concerning the FAA, and their hiring procedures, their equal opportunity in hiring people with certain disabilities and defects, okay, to receive these certain positions in the FAA, okay. And now we see things happening, circling around these airline companies. Okay.
More information. We want to get more information right now. I understand our Siafa Lewis is standing by with that. Siafa?
Hey, Yuki, we are here on Common Avenue, about, I'd say, half a mile from where I believe that plane went down this evening. I did speak to a gentleman who is a tow truck driver. He was across from the scene. He said he saw the plane come down. He wasn't sure what it was. Obviously, he was startled by it. He saw there was a massive, big explosion, and then he was startled and he started running in the direction where I'm standing right now. He also added that there were some human remains that he saw in the middle of the street down there. So it's just a frightening, horrible, horrific situation here in the Northeast, as you would expect, Yuki.
All right, Siafa, thank you so much. I mean, I'm just looking behind you and just the flashing lights, the EMTs on the scene. I have never seen anything like this before. None of us have, that's for sure, in our area. What was the immediate reaction when you arrived on the scene? Were people in a panic state? Tell me more about when you first got there.
It took us quite some time to get here, Yuki, as you would imagine, at that time of night. I mean, we got here about 7 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Traffic is very congested in this area. We parked about, I'd say, a block and a half away and made our way to this point, which is as far as we could go. There are some people standing on the periphery, big crowds to my left and further behind me as well. Big congregated crowds, but just a lot of confusion, I would say, at this point.
I'm sure it is. Siafa Lewis, thank you so much. We will get back to you as well throughout the night to try to gather as much information as you can. And granted, we're looking at the scene right now. The streets are just wet, so the investigation hopefully isn't being hampered too much by the weather right now. Do you think it will stay this way throughout the evening while this investigation?
And now ain't the time to, board a flight or be anywhere around these airlines.
Continues. We need to get your mic up. Hold on. Could we get Grant's mic up? 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's up.
So Yuki, I mean, we're not going to be out of the rain probably for another 3 or 4 hours or so, but there is heavier rain just south of where all of this is unfolding, but it doesn't look like any sort of
is on the phone, and I believe, Joe, you have some new information.
Yeah, Yuki, you know what? You've been sort of talking about it as I've been here working my sources. We can confirm that several people, according to Philadelphia police sources, were on this plane. You've described it a Learjet 55, which is what my sources are telling me. In my research, that plane has a capacity, the jet has a capacity of almost 7 pounds of fuel. And if it had just taken off and it was en route to Missouri, it was likely filled up. And the degree rating that you see that plane coming down from the sky, it looks to be, with the video slightly tilted off to the right, that looks to be coming in at less than a 45-degree angle. And with 5 miles of difference from impact from where it took off, and I believe the last altitude reading that was on the app that we were using to track the plane, the plane tracker, it looked like the plane had been able to climb to 1,700 feet. And then we don't know the rest of the story yet, which I will take a moment to explain. Our sources are giving us information. We are using degree of sensitivity and doing what we do to understand that there are humans and there are people, and people's families are involved in this. And we are not just going to run with details because 2 people told us or 3 people told us. I think that's important to note at this time, that we're getting information, but we are processing it and using an extreme degree of responsibility before just sharing it, because the information that we're learning is devastating. I don't think anybody can, not read between the lines at this point.
That is so true.
Back to what we know about this, at 6:07 and 12 seconds, you see that huge ball of fire lighting up the sky. We've heard the screams. We've seen camera footage that actually has sensitivity monitors. They look like those green boxes in that video where we hear the terrible shrills and screams.
Let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 10. Let's go down to verse 28. It says, "And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell." Verse 29, "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a farthing? And one of them shall not fall on the ground without your Father." Okay, so nothing is going to take place. Nothing is going to happen without the okay and ultimately the sanction of the Most High Yahweh. All right, he is making everything take place on the earth. Moreover, everything that you see taking place on the earth has already been written, and it was orchestrated by Yahweh, by Shem Yahweh Shai. It says, "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a farthing, and one of them shall not fall on the ground without your Father." All right, a plane ain't gonna fall out of the sky. Somebody ain't gonna trip and fall. A leaf ain't gonna fall out of a branch, without the Most High Yahweh making that particular thing take place and happen. Okay, it says, "But the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear ye not, therefore, ye are more valuable than many sparrows." Okay,
of that woman, and you can see that those sensitivity monitors, green outlines, actually can't even encompass the scale of fire and the bright blast that is clear across this sky. No doubt punctuated by the low cloud ceiling that Grant has been describing for us.
And the scriptures speak about that, because you see the light that comes from, whether it's a plane, whether it's a missile, whatever it is, you see the light and the brightness that comes from this explosive object. When it hits, it lights the whole sky up. The scriptures speak about, when the missiles hit this place, that it's going to light the whole sky up. Let's see if we can run that back again. And you see how it's dark? Well, that ain't the one. Let's see. Let's back up a little bit more. Yeah, you see how bright? See the brightness?
At 6:07 and 12.
Just imagine how bright it's going to be when these missiles hit.
12 seconds, you see that huge ball of fire lighting up the sky. We've heard the screams. We've seen camera footage that actually has sensitivity monitors. They look like those green boxes in that video where we hear the terrible shrills and screams of that woman. And you can see that those sensitivity monitors, green outlines, actually can't even encompass the scale of fire and the bright blast that is clear across this sky. No doubt punctuated by the low cloud ceiling that Grant has been describing for us. But my sources tell me upon arrival, and they were all there pretty quickly. A lot of these folks live in Northeast Philadelphia. When they did get there, numerous cars on fire, buildings, houses, businesses. I believe mattress firm was mentioned by a source, and a auto tag place also mentioned at the entrance to Roosevelt Mall, all burning in the very immediate impact of all of this.
Hey, Joe, continue to work your sources and get as much information as you can and get back to us, please, because right now we want to talk to aviation expert and pilot Arthur Walk. Arthur joins us, and Arthur, we thank you again. We were just talking to you about the mid-air collision over the Potomac. And now when you see this video that has occurred in Northeast Philadelphia, a plane, a Learjet, leaving the Northeast Philadelphia airport, what immediately goes through your mind if you had to try to figure out in an instant what had happened? Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening. I can tell you from looking at the doorbell video, the angle of descent of that airplane reveals to me a mechanical malfunction. Because there'd be no reason at that particular point in the flight, the airplane would be cleared probably to 7,000 feet, and he's coming down at about a 45-degree angle.
So you're thinking I kind of mentioned that earlier. I mean, it happened so quickly after takeoff, mechanical malfunction. What goes through a pilot's mind as you're leaving the strip? What could go wrong? We're not saying this is what happened. What could go wrong? Is there any way to determine that?
Well, not yet. But I mean, if you take a look at the angle of descent, it tells you that something pitched the airplane down. The only thing that can do that is in the tail, the horizontal stabilizer in the tail. And if the autopilot malfunctions, if the trim system malfunctions, and it results in pitch down on the airplane, that would certainly describe what we see in those very few seconds of descent.
Wow. Arthur, you keep a plane at this airport, is that correct?
Exactly. I'm flying out tomorrow morning.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Tell us about the environment of the Northeast Airport. It's all private planes, small private planes?
Yes. It's not a commercial service there.
Right.
There are a lot of private planes there, a lot of jet planes that are owned privately. It has a lot of traffic from people who are coming into Philadelphia or transiting Philadelphia, as this aircraft was. The airport has terrific facilities in terms of runways and instrument procedures and things of that nature. And of course, right on takeoff, you would go to Philadelphia Approach Control, which is located at the big airport. And they would be telling the pilots to climb to the next level of altitude. Normally it's climb to 2,000 and then 4,000 and then 7,000 beyond that for a while.
Arthur, what do you think the first thing investigators will be doing as they attempt to manage this chaotic scene right now? What's first and foremost on their mind?
Well, this is going to be tough because, first of all, obviously the damage that has resulted from this crash is horrendous. So it's going to be extremely difficult to find the failed part if there is a failed part. However, there are two things that might be helpful right away. One is if the crew communicated some difficulty to air traffic control, and that would be Philadelphia Approach Control, because they would have been on that frequency at the time. And the second thing is the cockpit voice recorder. But I mean, if you take a look at the angle of...
Let's go to Zechariah, the 14th chapter. Let me see if I can backtrack a little bit on this video.
I can tell you from looking at the doorbell video, the angle of descent of that. Take a look at the angle of descent. It tells you that something pitched the airplane down. The only thing that can do that is facilities in terms of runways and instrument procedures and things of that nature. And of course,
this is Zechariah chapter 14:7. It says, but it shall be, it says, let me start in verse 6. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day which shall be known to the Lord, not day nor night, but it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. Okay. You know, speaking, when these missiles hit, the brightness from these missiles are going to light up, you know, the skies in a magnificent way. You see the brightness that came from this particular object, whether it be a plane, whether it be a missile, whether it be a plane filled with explosives or whatever the case may be. You see the brightness that came. Let's see if we can get to that point again. If I can get to it. Okay, boom.
The environment of the Northeast Airport, it's all private planes, small private planes?
yes, it's not a commercial service there.
Right.
There are a lot of private planes there, a lot, and at about a 45-degree angle.
So you're thinking I kind of mentioned that earlier. I mean, it happened so quickly after takeoff, mechanical malfunction. What goes through a pilot's mind as you're leaving the strip? What could go wrong? We're not saying this is what happened. What?
Boom. All right, let's read it again. This is Zechariah 14:7. It says, but it shall be one day which shall be known to the Lord, not day nor night, but it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. Okay. Hey, look at the brightness from this, you know, whatever it is, it's very minute and small compared to you know, the ICBMs. And you see the brightness that is coming from this particular explosion in Northeast Philadelphia. Okay. Well, this is going to happen on a very, very large scale when these missiles get shot over to Babylon the Great in very large numbers. And it's going to light up the skies. And, you know, it's going to be such a bright light, you know, from these missiles detonating all over America, that it's going to be able to be seen from very, very far off. Okay.
What could go wrong? Is there any way to determine that?
Well, not yet, but I mean, if you take a look at the angle of descent, it tells
Right.
you that.
And you know, we can end it right there. I want to get let's close out on Romans the 13th chapter. We closed out camp on this, and let's go to Romans 13:11. And it's like, as soon as we ended camp, this popped up on my phone. I actually thought it was the video from the particular crash that happened in Washington, D.C. But as I read the description, you know, it said Philadelphia. So I'm like, okay, this is a you know, something that is happening right now, you know, another occurrence, you know. And then I saw the live particular part of the video, you know. So hey, man, you know, it's beautiful times that we're living in, and more so, it's you know, we got to thank Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai for being on this side, all right, for this wisdom and knowledge that he has given us, okay. And it's truly a gift, all right, like it says in Isaiah the 33rd chapter, man. Wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability in these times that we're in the times, and especially in the times that we're coming into, which not all of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans have that wisdom, have that knowledge, and moreover have the understanding, all right, of the scriptures, of the prophecies. Okay. This is Romans chapter 13 and verse 11. It says, in that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep. It is high time to awake out of sleep. This devil is, hey, he's in a rush. He's trying to speed up his program. All right, to seek to complete his enterprise. He's moving quickly, he's moving faster, he's doing things all over the earth. He's putting various different things in play. He has his crisis actors on the scene, all right, active. And he has very, very sinister plans for you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, man. Okay. And ultimately, he's seeking his new world order. And he seeks to come about that out of order ab chaos, order out of chaos. And we see chaos being orchestrated all over the earth. All right. It says, and that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachaha Kwadash. Double honors to the head apostle, Nettles, a great millstone, who rule well and teach well. Peace and blessing to you, sincere Akim, that are pushing this truth all over the four corners of the earth, week in and week out in all truth and sincerity. To the next time, Shalom.